Center for South Asian Art Forum's SF welcomes you all to the 5th edition of the South Asian Literature and Arts Festival 2024, or SALA as it's popularly known. Thank you for coming and being a part of this festival. Before we begin, a very big thank you to all our sponsors you can see here who've enabled us to bring this quality of festival to our Bay Area community. Today's panel is Slice of Life. The keynote speaker is Chef Suvir Saran, who actually has entertained us already for the last 15 minutes with his amazing talent. In conversation with Ferose VR, a little bit about Ferose. Ferose heads the SAP Academy for Engineering in San Ramon. Ferose co-authored the #1 bestseller, The Invisible Majority, India's Abled Disabled, and another best-selling book, Gifted, inspiring stories of people with disabilities. Along with that, Ferose is the founder of the India Inclusion Foundation, a Bengaluru-based non-profit that aims to bring the topic of inclusion to the forefront in India. Just a few house rules before we begin. Please keep your cell phones on silent and no video recording. There will be a 15 minutes Q&A after the program, and books by the author will be available for sale and signing outside in the atrium or in the front lawn. And with that, let's welcome our panelists with a big round of applause.
Can you hear me? Yes. Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor to share the stage with my very dear friend, Suvir Saran. So we were discussing कि हम what should we do today? घंटे हैं. सुवीर ने बोला कि गप्पे मारते हैं. तो
sound is not there.
तो हम लोग basically next 45 minutes गप्पे मारेंगे. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
मैं थोड़ा गूगली भी फेंकूंगा इन पे.
मसाला होगा खूब.
तो बहुत गप्पे मारेंगे, मसालेदार होंगे. तो मैं पहला, you know, when Suvir was singing beautifully, I had a lady coming there and said, वो कौन है? तो मैं बोला, he's Suvir. Said, वो तो chef है, but ये गा कैसे रहा है? Should I use this? Yeah. तो आपकी आवाज आनी चाहिए. Is that okay? Good. So, you know, the beautiful lady was saying, I thought he's a chef. बहुत multi-talented है, Suvir. So, Suvir's introduction is pretty complicated, but I'll try to tell you a few things.
Suvir is complicated.
Yeah, Suvir is complicated. I think everybody knows him as a Michelin Star chef. But the thing that he's most proud of is that he's an educator. Of all the things he does, he said, I'm very proud to be an educator. He's of course fashion. क्या बताऊँ मैं? Looks so gorgeous.
A drag queen. People would think that
fashion icon है. He's a beautiful singer, an outstanding artist. So in my first conversation with him, मैंने बोला सुवीर, भगवान ने सब talent आपको ही दे दिया, तो हम जैसों का क्या होगा? So he said something very profound. He said भगवान ने दर्द भी बहुत दिया है. तो मैं पहला क्वेश्चन सुवीर ये चाहता हूँ कि आप you were so incredibly successful in US for almost 3 decades, and then you said you went back to India to die. Tell me what happened.
So, you know, ज़िंदगी एक नशा है. Our lives, we treat our lives like addictions that we don't think of as addictions, but they are, you know, we do well, we get promoted, we have a gazillion-dollar home, a beautiful car, and all of this is madness that people other than ourselves have inflicted upon us, and as sheeple, we've just followed the trail and just become lost in them. तो मुझे भी वो नशा हो गया. पहला हिंदुस्तानी शेफ जिसे मिशेलिन स्टार मिला, जिसके रेस्टोरेंट को first of 18 chefs in North America and restaurants had got it. तो ये नशा लोगों को, मेरे को तो कुछ नहीं, मैं तो नहीं बदला, पर बदल गया. मेरे को इतनी अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिलती थी कि तुम आके यहाँ पे बोलो, उस बोर्ड पे आके बैठ जाओ, इस ऐड को कर लो, यहाँ पे सितार बजाते हो, कॉफ़ी पी लो, तो एली कॉफ़ी आपको $100,000 दे देगी. तो $100,000 से मैं क्या करूँगा? मैंने फार्म बनाया जिसकी खर्चा होता था $29,000 a month I would spend on keeping a 80-acre farm organic in New York State. So how many people in this world will put $28,000 into the earth? So I went to my accountant and I said, ये क्या कर रहा हूँ मैं? He said, आपको खुशी देती है ना? I said, yes. He said, आप टैक्स पे दे दोगे या आप इसको धरती को दे दो और हंसो? I said, really? He said, He said, we are writing it off as an expense. So $28,000 a month was what the farm animals का खर्चा था, जिनसे मैं एक पैसा नहीं बना सकता था. So having an organic farm in America is a pipe dream that most people can't have. My father called it a white elephant. He told everybody, ow, dekho what this mad boy is doing. He lives like a Shahenshah. He's created a world that is different. Zoe Francois is this incredible baker who has a food show. She said, our farm, when she came to it, she said, it's fantasia. She said, it's everything that Enid Blyton and all the books of the past would write about. And then being two gay men, my partner then, Charlie and I, he said, you've given it that pizzazz, that glitter, that drama, that color and personality that takes it to another level. It's a Hollywood production or a Broadway show at a farm. Even our animals were sassy. I had two chickens that were both named, what was the name of the black chicken? The singer, the amazing black singer with beautiful hair. I'm forgetting the name, I'm blanking. So we had two versions of it. एक real थी और एक उसकी do it double. जब वो बीमार हो जाए, तो we had to have Tina Turner. So I had Tina Turner, two Tina Turners. So when one Tina was either missing, another would be there. And they were perfectly coiffed Tinas. People would come and take photographs and they would perform. So these were, I had 300 chickens of 36 breeds that were either endangered, extinct, or terribly threatened. Because I thought to myself, if I'm having a farm, I have to re-inhabit in America breeds that America has lost a connection to because of money. So our eggs, when I sold my eggs to the Culinary Institute of America, they had a class of pastry chefs and students do research on the protein levels and the omega-3s in my eggs. They were totally mind blown by it that a recipe that would use 4 eggs, they could get away with 2 1/4 eggs because they were so rich. My girls were lazy girls, Tina Turner didn't want to produce an egg every day. My girls, I had over 300 of them, would give me 3 dozen eggs a day. 300 chickens giving 36 eggs. Unsustainable for today's life. So I was living a life that was sustaining these unsustainable practices, that were correct practices, that America had killed for the planet. And I was living in a part of America which was very rural, where I was an effing terrorist, I was an effing faggot, I was an effing idolatrous Hindu, I was an effing Jewish clawed human. Agar main muh nahi kholta tha, they thought I was Jewish. But they didn't realize I'm Indian because when I'm clean shaven, I'm very light skinned. So they would think of me as everything but Indian till I opened my mouth. And nothing that they thought of me as was good enough for them. I wasn't a Christian in a very rural outpost of America where everybody was other who wasn't Christian. And if you were not white and northern, waspy. So I'd never seen this world. I came from Delhi, I came from Bombay, I lived in New York City, now I arrive in upstate New York, where hate was the currency, bigotry that didn't come from any heartfelt angst, but from a mindset that had been othered in their own lives for generations. They had been sent to terrible schools where there was terrible education, the libraries didn't have good books, there was no Broadway, there were shows, there were nothing in rural America. They had church and they had their family lives and mint juleps and whatever they drank in their families in the evening. वो उनकी ज़रिया थी ज़िंदगी काटने की. So I also changed that. I was bold enough to think if I'm creating recipes for the Peanut Board of America, they would give me money and I would say 50% will go to my community and I'll go traveling the country for you. I would travel 25 days a month, sometimes 4 cities in each week. I was traveling non-stop to make money for these community work that we were doing. We created a lunch, learn and study program for our rural community where kids would go hungry during the summer because the schools were off and these parents didn't have money. We created a backpack program for the weekend where kids would go home with food because these kids would go hungry till Monday. We created a community garden which educated our kids in a rural outpost of America. We taught them what a cauliflower was, because when I came into a soup kitchen, when we had these kids volunteer, they were picking up a potato and calling it carrot, they were picking up a cauliflower, calling it beetroot. They had no connection to vegetation around them. Rural farms are changed, they're industrial farms. So then I realized, oh, we have to create a community garden. We did that. We then taught the kids to go from garden to soup kitchen to farmers market with products to sell. So we gave them a way to create in their lives an ability to make a business that would sustain a rural practice. We created an adult education program. So my money sustained the community, but while we were doing that, we did this anonymously. They would come and dump their garbage in my home every few days, because they would write faggot, they would write Arab terrorist, all these things. One day somebody told them, oh, you know, the winter jackets are coming from Charlie and Suvir. The adult literacy program is being funded by Suvir and Charlie. They were shocked. So my Charlie would always tell our neighbors, till you know me, don't hate me. Till you know me, don't judge me. Till you've talked with me, don't think I'm a terrible human being. But the reason I began with this is that these travels, this burden of trying to be a messiah, I don't know why I have that in me, that I have to change the planet with my voice. I don't tell people to do what I do. I was killing myself at every step of the way. I would come to the farm once in 10 days. Sometimes that was my only break in my schedule. I would fly into Albany for the hour-and-a-half trip. I would be there for 2 days. In those 2 days, somebody is coming from the James Beard Foundation to have a $10,000 a person weekend at the farm. I'm cooking dinner for them, breakfast for them, fundraisers for the community. So I was never off. I never took a break. For I think 16 years, I never flew on a holiday, nothing. So my mother, when I fell ill, my mother said to me, you need a sabbatical from life and living as you know it. You're just overdoing it, Baba. And so I went to India to die. I was legally blind for 18 months. My memory was very fractured and broken for 21 months. In my life, 3 years or so of recovery. And I'm now back with the living and the people who are normal, I guess, whatever normal we can be. I'm not normal. But fatigue, I think I was just overdoing it. Nasha, ki main kuch kar sakta hu. I can be somebody. So I think I never gave myself a break. So in retrospect, the neurosurgeon had nothing. I was part of an NYU study where people with concussions, with brain damage, are put in a room with cameras studying them. And they would tell me, so we come anytime you want. They wanted me to be a namuna, a person they could study. Because they said, we don't know the human brain. So with noise, when I would get on a plane, when my mom took me to India to die, I started beating myself on the plane. And my mother said, Baba, have I done something wrong? But 45 minutes into the flight, I was okay. I used to have something like a scorpion coming out of my brain every 2-3 days. But when that scorpion came into my head and went through my eyes and came out, some word would come back to me. I could move a finger. So as the brain healed, these things would happen inside me, and I would find a connection to my past. I would sing one rag over a month and a half, and I would get to it in 1.5 months to get back the words of the bandish that were missing. I can recite poetry from all the poets that are important to my world of Urdu poetry. I'd lost all of them. So I would cry, and Mom would say, what are you crying about? And I said, Mom, and I would start singing, because I couldn't communicate really. So she knew that I'm singing one song over 3 weeks. And each day, one more word would come back to me. So memory came piecemeal. And I left in America to go to India to be full again and to be born again. And to get out of this nasha, the mad rat race that is life. I've always been an inconvenient truth teller. I'm a chef who doesn't hang out with chefs. I was a restaurateur that told people, don't come to my restaurant more than once a month or once in 2 months. Eat at your table, eat as a family, eat as communities. People who eat together as families, communities, and neighbors stay happier and better together. So I would say these things that were anathema to people who are in a profession. I never joined the ISCP. They invited me to speak. That's all I did. It's the International Association of Culinary Professions. They hated me. I never gave dues to James Beard Foundation. I did dinners there. Because I said, if I'm bad-mouthing them behind their back, I can't take their membership or be associated with them.
Sure.
So I'm an idiot. Bimar pada.
Suvir, one thing I've learned after having long conversations and having done your research, women have played an incredibly important role in your life. And it was your grandmother who gave you the permission to come out as gay. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Her mom. My nanny, she would have been how old? And how old would she be today? 100 plus. So that woman lived in San Francisco in the Marina district and retired here. And she told everybody her name was Nani. And you said, Nani, her name is Shanti. She said, Khataktai, I don't want people to say Shanti, Shanti. So she would tell them, I'm Nani. And when she passed away and you all did the prayer service, people showed up from all over. Because she would make cakes and cornbread and all kinds of pickles. And my aunt had a beautiful garden and Nani would cook with it. So one day my brother-in-law calls me, I'm 21-year-old, that Suvir, I told him I'm gay, but I hadn't told my sister. I hadn't told anybody but my brother-in-law. He said, Nani thinks you're gay. I said, what do you mean Nani thinks I'm gay? She said, there's a character in Bold and Beautiful or Days of Our Lives. One of them had a gay character. And Nani keeps telling Nana and Seema that Suvir reminds her of that boy. And Seema has understood what she means by that. So Seema said, Nani, I don't know. So she said to my sister, talk to him, I want to bring him to San Francisco. So she called me, she said, why don't you and your roommate Chuck come to see me? So we flew to San Francisco and she made parathas for us and key style, 10 baje raat ko 11 baje. Anytime you arrive, midnight, she would make you parathas. So Nani made us parathas and she said, Chuck is not your roommate, she's your lover. I said, Nani, she said, roommate, shoemate nahi hai. It's not good for you. I said, why? She said, if you're not honest to yourself, you'll become a drug addict, you'll become a drunk, you'll be depressed. So just own it and tell your mom about this. It's okay. And I called my mother a few days later and told her, Mom, I have something terrible to tell you. And she said, what happened? And I said, I'm gay. So immediate reaction was, Baba, it's okay, that's who you are. It's not terrible. My mother thought I've killed somebody, accident ho gaya, something terrible has happened. But then it wasn't that easy. She said it at that moment. She said, oh, it's okay, Baba, it's you. She came to America. We spent time together. It took her, even today, there are times when she says, when did you become gay? Why did you become gay? Did you choose it? When did you know it? And I said, Mom, did you ever know that I was different? And she's from the earliest of times. And I said, why did you never ask me if I'm gay? She said, no mother would want to think of her child as being that other that people would hate, would be bigoted around, would call names, would marginalize, would create trouble for. She said, why would I want you to be that? So she said, when I saw you as being a gay boy, I didn't give it that thought. I prayed that you would be different. So she said, when you came out, I was in shock because I had assumed that I'm wrong in seeing you as being different. So I knew from the age of 3 or 4, we lived in Nagpur when I was 5-year-old, there was a Shanshan Bhumi near our home, and every day I would see dead bodies on shoulders, mayyat jari hoti thi, and I would start crying. And I could not, I think 2 years of very bad sleep, because I would think that society would kill me and would kick me, not even put me on their shoulders, because I had a secret that I was living that nobody knew. I didn't have words, I didn't have a role model. I just thought I was an aberration. I didn't know anybody in India. I didn't know the word gay, but I knew I liked men. I knew that I looked at a man and got happy. I knew I wanted to marry a man. I wanted to spend my lifetime with a man. But I didn't have a word for it, I didn't have verbiage for it, I didn't have popular people in cinema, plays, books. I read a lot from the age of 6 and 7. I was reading books that 50-year-olds don't read. But nowhere did I find anything that connected me to anybody who I thought was me. So I always thought I was condemned to live a terrible life, that I would be a dead body sooner than later, and society would kill me, butcher me, and I would be that shove being carried. And women, you asked about women. So Nani and women, I come from a woman, I think sooner than later, across the world when we realize we are of women, we are fathers to women, we are neighbors, brothers, uncles, husbands. I think women, without women, we are not alive. And the women in my life, from my Nani, this Punjabi woman who was remarkable at everything. She's a saint. And her husband, my Nana, was even more. My father died when he was 66, but my Nana died at 92. His passing crippled me more than my father's. Because I always imagined Nana would be the classiest 100-year-old living in the world. He would read the New York Times printed for him in Delhi. He could talk to you about Apple shares, he could talk to you about gay icons, he could talk to you about Indian cinema, Russian cinema, he spoke multiple languages. So that man and all the women that he encouraged, for him my mother and his daughter were equal kids in the world, not just the sons. And so these women in my life, and the Mary, the maid who came to clean our bathroom, Maya, whose mother-in-law worked for my dadi. Maya came in, my mother came into my dadi's family. Maya and my mother gave each other freedom in agency and a new zaria of living where there was equality. My mother made sure that the bathrooms were not just being cleaned from the periphery, but Maya could come into the house. Maya could sit in the kitchen and eat. But Maya was an untouchable before that. So my mother brought Maya in, Maya's kids became our friends. We were living in Nagpur one day and my father's eldest mama came and he said to my brother, "Jute polish karane, please le jana." And my brother was polishing the shoes. So he started crying, he said, "Bahurani, ye kya ho raha hai?" My mother said, "He's polishing your shoes. Kya badi baat hai, mama ji?" He said, "But mochi ko do na." So my mother said, "Mochi?" He understood we were doing these chores. Next day, there's a kid sitting at the table. He said, "Aap kaun ho?" Usne kaha, "Main Ram Pyara hu, to Ram Pyare." And he said, "Aapke father kya karte?" "Wo mochi." So he was sitting at our table and eating. So our friends were mochi ka bacha, dhoban ka bacha. My mother didn't other anybody. She was living for 3 years in Nagpur, outside of my grandmother's home. She broke all the rules that Indian bahus won't. Because she taught us to work. My sister would do the bed, she would make beds, my brother would polish shoes. I, being the youngest 5-year-old, would hold on to her sari and chop some salads, but pretty much just be an appendage to my mother. And these women taught me that even though I had fears, that I had self-hate, that I had doubts, that I saw death every minute that I took a breath in, these women taught me that I was okay. They taught me to stitch, to knit, to macrame, to crochet, to paint, to do needlepoint, to do mirror work, to do sheet ka kaam. I can do anything a person can do with their hands. These women taught me how to do it. I did it because I was afraid to be around society. With these women, I was hidden in a cocoon. Their godi, their hand, their expression told me I'm okay. They'll protect me. So that's the role of women in my life.
Beautiful. Is that the reason why your restaurant was called Dévi?
So yes, Gail Green, the food critic of New York Magazine, a very dear friend of mine. And I, again, like my nana, her passing has scarred me for life. Gail gave me the name Dévi. She said, "You're all about women. You empower women, you champion women, you're fighting for women's suffrage, you're there fighting with Gloria Steinem on this road. So you are a feminist." I said, "I am." And so she said, "Call it Dévi." Dévi, not Hindu Dévi, Bharatma, Dharti Ma. It wasn't about Hinduism. When you go to Advait Vedanta, Advait means there's Advait, there's no duality. The word Advait means without duality, that there's no other in this planet. So Dévi is a form of the earth, of a lineage, of life, of growth, of tomorrows, of sustainability. So that's what Dévi represented.
Suvir, can I call you an accidental chef? Because you wanted to be a doctor and you haven't gone to a school to study culinary, but you were cooking for your friends. And it was pretty organic the way you started your restaurant. Tell us a little bit about how you became a chef.
So from the age of 5, I was cooking. I was cooking because in the kitchen with Panditji, our family's Brahmin chef, and my mother who baked every afternoon, who baked the best cakes of Delhi. Ruchi, you remember those cakes? So you could be the richest or the most humble Delhiite, but if you needed a good birthday cake or the best trifle pudding in Delhi, Sunita Saran was the person to go to. And so I learned how to make mayonnaise at home with eggs. Now India is all about veggies, this crappy mayonnaise that will kill you and send you to the hospital. But she made everything from scratch. And so I learned how to cook. I could make il flottant in a country like India where my mother was fluent with culinary French. So il flottant, 7 years old, I was making il flottant, floating icebergs. It's the dessert because my mother lived on a budget in Nagpur. My father and mother were, they had a love marriage, they broke caste barriers. My father joined the government of India where your paycheck was 700 rupees. The school fees at modern school was 3,000 or something. So my father would take a loan in Ruchi, my friend here. Her father would give my parents loans of money because he was working in the private company. Ki Deepak, dream karo. This is India also in friendship. that they would tell my dad, money aa jayega, tum karo jo karna. But my mother had a budget where 48 eggs would be bought for so many days, in which my father was the head of the Income Tax Academy in Nagpur. So Papa would entertain every evening. She would make cakes, she would feed us an egg every morning, she would make mayonnaise for open sandwiches, she would make an il flottant, floating iceberg, she would make custard with spotted dick. She would make, it was incredible. And she had notes, a diary that I would read. She didn't know I was reading that, in which she would say, kitne log aaye hain? So every meal she would plan 1 day in advance, she would make notes of what she was making, how much she would buy so that she would be in her budget. And then after the dinner, she would make notes of what was successful, what was left over, what was really relished, and what comments people made. And she was keeping a diary of these dinners that educated her to A, not repeat dishes from one dinner to another, but also understand what quantities to make. She was not a woman who'd learned how to, she was a Bombay Calcutta girl, gone to Loreto Convent and Fort Convent and wore a skirt and a maxi, not churidar kurta or saris. So my mother, when she married into a UP Bhaiya's home, had to learn to speak Hindi, learn to cook Hindustani khana, and become a housewife. My grandfather hoped she would become a doctor or a bureaucrat or something, but in love you do anything. So she ran her home most beautifully, and that taught me how to cook from a young age. Reading her diary, seeing how she meticulously and well-planned she was.
So tell us about how you actually started your restaurant in New York and to the journey of getting the Michelin Star.
So I came to America to study graphic design and art history. I went to School of Visual Arts in New York. I was at Sir J.J. School of Art in Bombay. They took 2 students from outside of Maharashtra every year. I was lucky enough to be one of those kids. Sadly, I refused to go to Maharaja Saijirao, MSU Baroda, which is a much better school, but they took many people from outside of Gujarat, so I thought, oh, JJ is better. But it was a horrible school. The education was terrible. All they could focus on was Suvir looking different. So 98 students looked Maharashtrian, and the 2 of us, one was a Sindhi girl from, I think, Jabalpur, and I was the unusual mutt from Delhi. So we had lighter skin, we had different lehja of speaking. So we were other, we were hated, we were questioned. Kya hai? Tu kya aaye? What are you? I would say human. Nahi, Punjabi aaya. I said, no, I'm not a Punjabi, even though I am part Punjabi. But I wanted to just play with them. So I came to School of Visual Arts. I started studying, supporting myself by working full-time. I worked at the Metropolitan Museum of Art as a stock boy. My 8th or 9th day at work, Hillary Clinton was touching my shoulder. I didn't know who she was. I was such a clueless artist that who's Hillary Clinton? I knew Bill Clinton, but I read the newspaper. But I knew Hillary's name, but didn't know the face. So a woman is touching me and it's Hillary. And I was just stock boy, but I wore a jacket, even a blazer as a stock boy. And I mean, I had long hair, ponytail, looked Italian, looked good, because the New York Times photograph from that day, I looked like I could be a Hollywood star. And Hillary came to me and said, sir, can you find this for me? And I was a stock boy. I said, yeah, sure, ma'am. And I offered to take her to the gallery from which those cards had been inspired, the works. So she followed me into the rooms where I took her, and 2.5 hours later, Bill Clinton and Hillary had gotten a tour of the museum through the stock boy of the Metropolitan Museum of Art gift store, who was making $4.45 an hour to just support himself as a student. Next thing, I'm in CNN and New York Times front page, as the kid who said, Clintons are just another couple. They asked me, how did you feel serving the Clintons? I'd been in America 6-7 days, they meant nothing to me. I said, just another customer. I was as polite to them as I would be with anybody else. The people loved this answer. So they made me a manager very soon. Within 6 months, I was a manager at the Met. I started working from there, became a buyer for Bergdorf Goodman for home furnishings. From there, I became the merchandising director for Henry Bendel. From there, I became the head of Mrs. Jonathan Strong Stationers, the finest stationery the planet has. The Queen of England to the King of Japan, they all make their stationery there. And I was heading the company. But through all of this, I was cooking every day. I would wake up at 6, 7 in the morning to take muffins and danishes that I would make. I would make puff pastry at 2 in the morning. Then wake up at 5:36 after sleeping 3 hours to make pastries out of them. Who does that? Because I hadn't gone to school, but a friend of mine, Eddie Schoenfeld, who was perhaps one of America's greatest restaurateurs, had the restaurant Red Farm in New York, an amazing Chinese restaurant. He was the proprietor owner of that. Eddie said to me, Bugula, buy Larousse Gastronomy, buy Larousse, and what's the other book? Another very famous name. There were two, and Julia Child. 3 books that I bought. Larousse, the other is Escoffier, and Julia Child's How to Cook Everything. Over 3.5 years, I cooked every recipe in these 3 books. I would start cooking at 11:30 every night and cook till 3:30, sleep, wake up at 6, bake, go to work by 8. Come with food for my colleagues, give food to Eddie, who would critique me whether I'd done things right or wrong. So I'd given myself French tutelage, taught myself how to speak these words correctly. And from the dictionary, we didn't have online anything at that point. These were 1993, 94, 95. And one day the CEO of Henry Bendel fired me and gave me 2 years severance. And I said, and I used the expletive F word for the first time in my life. I said, what's wrong with you? I'm giving you the best 2 years of your business. You're firing me? He said, Suvir, I'm giving you 2 years severance. Go cook. You have something in you that needs to be shared with the world, not just us. And if you hate it, come back to me. So I started a cooking school called Rasoi, the Indian Kitchen. And I gave my first cooking classes in Connecticut, at Salisbury, Connecticut, at Chaiwala. An Irish lady, Mary O'Brien, had the best cafe that all the rich of New York would go to Connecticut for the weekend, and Mary would make them beautiful food and also some Indian curries. So she invited me to teach classes there over the summer. They became my first classes. Then Stephen Eisman was one of the top editor of the editorial pages of New York Times, was turning 50. His wife, Elizabeth Buemiller, the head of Washington Post India Bureau, thought, oh, Suvir cooks the best Indian food in the world, I'm going to hire him. So she called me, she said, Suvir, all of us eat your food in each other's homes, you cook it for free. Will you charge me and do Stephen's 50th birthday for 100 people? I said, I'm not a caterer, I cook home food. She said, I want you to make the food you make and charge me for it. I said, I don't know what to charge you. She said, I would have paid somebody else $125 a person, charge me that. So I got my first break. And from then, the Carnegie Hall was doing the 50th anniversary of India's independence. Madhu Jaffrey, Julie Sani, I and 2 or 3 other caterers all given ideas of what we wanted to do for the $20,000 a couple table dinner that they were having at the Rohinton Room, where Indian food had never been served before. I got that gig. So my dessert, that was a mango, passion fruit, sorbet, ice cream, and I think a gel. In those days I was making caviar out of pomegranate soup, juice. And I made that became the cover of New York Magazine, and they called me the hottest caterer in town. It was my second gig that I did. And from there, I cooked for Rajas, Maharajas, Hollywood stars. I never gave names. That was my downfall. My father taught us never to make noise about what we did. So a lot of other chefs who cooked for the people I've cooked for would have shared photographs, details, names. I never did. And these people kept coming back to me for that. And so I never spilled. I trusted them, they trusted me. So I've cooked for the who's who of the planet, and I've learned a lot from them. The King of Morocco, the past one, he brought me to Morocco to sing at the Sacred Music Festival, be the MC for the Sacred Music Festival, and traveled me across Morocco to teach me cooking from the street food vendors and the greatest chefs in Morocco. How could I have gotten this gift had I ratted on saying, oh, I do this with the King of Morocco? He understood that I valued his privacy, and he gave me the best gift before he passed away. So my journey has had a lot of these gifts. So food came to me as an accident. And when Dévi opened, I wasn't cooking butter chicken dal makhani. In fact, butter chicken, I sold a katori, a small bowl, 6 ounces for $18 or $21. People say, what are you doing? I said, you can eat many other things in this menu. If you want to get butter chicken, I'm giving you organic, no color, with real yogurt being thickening. I said, if you want that, eat this, otherwise try other things. People believed in me. They tried. They stopped eating butter chicken. So we were giving bharwa karela, zimikan ke kofte, nadru ke kebab. We were doing things that people had never heard before. Bhel puri. Recently, Times of India food critic said, chef, when I go back to Google, you were the first Indian chef to put bhel puri on a restaurant menu. I said, yeah, 2003. She said, Chef, bhel puri? We are now putting it in Indian menus in India. I said, yeah, I made a pyramid bhel puri. I took bhel puri, put it into a stainless steel pyramid, then upturned it on a plate. It looked like $1 million, tasted better than any bhel puri in India. I made it seasonal. When corn was in season, I put corn in it. When heirloom tomatoes were in season, they went in. When sour cherries were in season, those went in. So, for me, cooking was my mother's imprint in my brain, that you had to be sensible, practical, seasonal, regional, logical, all at once. But not a political statement. I'm a chef who never made political statements. I cooked. I taught. I never cooked on the line. I never cooked in a line. A line is where you place your orders. When the order comes into the kitchen, cooks cook them. I trained my chefs on cooking my food and then went home and did dinners every night for 15, 20, 100 people. And I cooked it myself. That's why I've had shoulder surgery for both my shoulders. I'm a chef who lifted 100 pound vessels many times a day. I was a bottle cleaner, dishwasher, chef who cooked every day. An executive chef can sit and order other people to do their work. I cooked every day in my homes in both homes in India and also in America and also in India, every day. From anywhere from 8, 20, 100 people with no potential. But I lost my arms because of that. So I cooked every day. And food for me was meditative, food was reflective, it was a cultural glue that I could show the world that India wasn't what they thought it was. The other writers before me who wrote books had made Indian cooking into this hawa, this scare that you had to be a guru to teach them. I said, hello, billions are cooking this drama-free, beautiful, healthy, delicious food every day with not a frown on their faces. But if you read Indian books, it becomes a tamasha. They have to sell their story. I sold the story of India. That it's practical, it's simple, it's easy. So when the book came out, Indian Home Cooking, Cooking Light called me, and they said, Chef, it's the healthiest book we've reviewed this year. How remarkable that you were writing a healthy cookbook. I said, hello, it's not a healthy cookbook. It's the food of India that's eaten in our homes, which is practical, healthy, mindful, and as old as time, and of all Indians. In my book, there's sheer kurma for Eid. There's this chawal ki kheer for the holy days. So my recipes came from everywhere. From Hassan auntie, from Charles uncle, from mom, from neighborhood aunties, from the Jamadani who made me a dal. It represented India. The India that we are now othering ourselves. When the colonizers have left, Indians are in some nasha, the nasha I talked about myself. We're going crazy. India is never a monolithic identity or a boxed nation. India thrives when India is बिखरे बिखरे तारे हैं हम लेकिन झिलमिल एक हैं हम सब भारतीय हैं. This was the line from the National Cadet Corps anthem NCC, where it's such a beautiful song. हम सब भारतीय हैं बिखरे बिखरे तारे. We are scattered stars, but when we come together, our shimmer is brighter and more beautiful still. So that is India's teaching to the world. And my food, my stories, my books, and my recipes represent that India. And so I'm very unpopular in this current dispensation ruling India because I speak in Urdu. That's the language my dadi taught me. Hindi was spoken to the staff that didn't know Urdu. Urdu was the language of the educator. And we are Hindus whose all our festivals, I'm a kayast, we are scribes. So we keep a scribe. We have a role that's now I think 90 years old, my grandfather's time till today. It's a roll of sheet of paper. On the Sera, we write the names of everybody present, and we say, Kitne Arab kamana chahte ho? You write how much money you want to earn in the next year, and you write it in Arab, and you're writing it in Urdu. So the language of the Kayas, the language of the educated Punjabis was Urdu. पर आज उर्दू को देखिए क्या कर दिया हम लोगों ने. उर्दू कहती है, उर्दू है मेरा नाम, मैं खुसरो की पहेली. That Urdu is my name, I'm Khusro's riddle. मैं मीर की हमराज हूँ. I'm the talent and the hidden gifts of Mir the poet. मैं मीर की हमराज हूँ, गालिब की सहेली. And the friend of Ghalib. पर with last line कहती है कि अब देखो मुझको अपने वतन में मैं आज पड़ी हूँ अकेली. That is my own. मैंने तो खुद को कभी मुसलमान नहीं माना. क्यों बनाते हो मुझे तासुब का निशाना? Why are you making me the target of hatred? I never said I'm a Muslim. I'm not Muslim. I'm beyond religion and gender and sex and caste. I'm a language, like food. Food has no religion. So my parents gave me that gift. My dadi, my nana nani, they spoke the languages of India. They spoke with clarity. They spoke as Indians who didn't other anybody. The British had done enough. Why are we perpetuating these? You know, what I'm dressed, I told, देखिए मैं आपको तमाशा दिखाता हूँ. I'm wearing something I'm not comfortable wearing. But, Mukesh, this is a Khagra, whatever, Sharana, what do they call it? This kurta by a designer called Tilla. Tilla is the name of the designer out of Ahmedabad. And I bought this in the ladies section of Good Earth. I bought it, put a photograph of it. I was invited by the culture minister of the current prime minister for the 75th anniversary of India's independence to do the catwalk. I was the only man invited to walk the ramp, and I dressed up like this. This is khadi, all hand done, and I wore this, and the culture minister was gawking at me. So he said to me, "Aapne kya pehna hai?" I said, "Jo aapke Bhagwan pehante." I showed him on the phone. I said, "Hamare Hindu Bhagwan, kai log puri dunya mein, people around the world call our Hindu gods drag queens, cross-dressers. They look queer, they look funky, they look feminine." I said, "Hello, our religion, our country, our people, the Shia artists, जिनको religion उनके हाथ काट देती थी कि लोग बुत परस्ती कर रहे हैं, the Shia glass paintings are so rich. They have imagery that they've borrowed from all the other religions and created paintings that Sunni Islam will not allow them to have. But they were daring enough. So that's India for you. The Shia were creating glass paintings and paintings that were as out there as the Hindu imagery. Because art doesn't represent God. It represents the mindset of the people. Religion, Hinduism is not about the books we invest in. ये देवी वेवी कौन है? तुम्हारी imagination है. Bhagwan is written in the Vedas and the Upanishads, which were perpetuated by Americans. Henry David Thoreau, my favorite author, when he wrote about humanity, about the world, the atmosphere, the environment, he was quoting from the Upanishads and the Vedas. Because they are beyond caste, creed, humanity, borders, nationality, they are off all. So Henry David Thoreau was the inspiration of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi inspired Martin Luther King Jr. So when we look at all the tamasha we do as Hindus, the Puranic Hinduism, which is all about ritual, that's not our religion. Our religion is a very personal journey, as all religions should be. They're internalized. So my dadi taught us, Dekho ghat hi mein hari ka nivas hai, that in your heart is the home of God. Wo to karta pukar har saas hai. He calls out to you with every breath. Tune bahar talash neko kiye. You've looked outside for that God all your life. Lekin khud hi mein pyare ko bhul gaye. Wo to karta pukar har saas hai. So that is the essence of all religion. That with your breath going inside, you get, yes, a lot of questions. But those questions will automatically take you to the answers you need to have for yourself. Religion is just puppeteers who are making money in Vatican. The laddus that are corrupted in Hindu, what's that temple? Tirupati. I've gone there as a child. Only temple my parents took us to, and we regretted going there. That laddu and Tirupati, it could change poverty, it could eradicate poverty. If the Tirupati and the Vatican were to join hands and feed the world's poor, the uneducated, the homeless. San Francisco will not have the terrible energy it has today. India won't have homelessness and poverty. These religions are not religion. They are man-made madness that is just denaturing us and numbing us to be puppeteered by commodity boards, politicians, mullahs, pandits, ragis and rabbis to serve their needs and their gaddi. Ek singhasan chadi chale, duje bande saje. Kabir said that the Raja singhasan mein jata hai, garib shackled. We all die the same death. But we've allowed religion to corrupt our minds, and my grandparents and my mother and father were brave, daring souls that taught this kid and their other two children to speak up, be the voice of the gunga, the sound of the behra. If the behra is being attacked by somebody and I'm hearing it, it's my duty to speak up for his rights. If the blind are being disenfranchised, it's my duty as a man with sight to stand up for their rights. My father and my mother worked very hard to teach us those principles that weren't popular, and that's one of the reasons I said to myself, I'm not popular. I have nothing good to say. I tell people the truth, which is not always exciting, and it's often cost me politically a lot of stars and a lot of fanfare, but it gives me beautiful sleep. I sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, and I sleep it very happily, very richly, and I wake up hungry to live again, despite having chronic pain that doctors don't have a cure for. I had Manjula Bansal, the Indian who started the South Sea Street for Diwali Mela. She called me yesterday and she said, Suvir, we saw your MRI that the doctors have given. My son said to me, Mom, he should be able to lift a pin. How does Suvir walk, talk, smile? So he said to me, he said, muscles have memories. So my fake smile is a fake smile. I cry every day. I also told him I'm waiting for death to take me. When I see a Palestinian child being killed, I say, oh, why aren't you taking me and save that Palestinian child? I'm ready to go. I have so much suffering. But then my mother says, Baba, that suffering makes you a better person. It makes your writing richer. It makes your food sing in a different way. It makes your voice, that after my TI, after my transient ischemic attack, mini stroke, my palate changed, the structure of my jaw changed. I get saliva and I can't keep my breath. So as a trained, I've learned classical music for 46 years. I can hear what I'm doing wrong, but I still sing. But that singing alleviates some of my pain. There are no painkillers, there's no cure for what I have. But my music, my art, my words, and the fire within keeps me going. And I've learned it from our old scriptures, including the Kitab Quran. Because the internal jihad, again, like Advait Vedanta, the word jihad wasn't meant to be a war. It's the war within you. It's such a beautiful concept, jihad, that you have to fight your demons. You have to get yourself in the Rah that Uparwala would want you to be in. So all religions take us to the same route through different highways, and our pundits and mullahs are teaching us to hate one another. But food gave me that unity in diversity.
Fantastic. I think we're running out of time, and I thought we were just warming up, but fantastic. It's, we'll continue this conversation. Do we have time to ask questions from the audience?
Yes. Can I get the mic?
Yes.
The mic.
This
It's
one?
in front of Chef.
Yeah. So, a few questions from the audience. We'll try to keep the answers short if that's possible, very quickly. Yes.
I'm dog-winded.
Yes.
I'm popular.
So
Yes.
which was your first restaurant? Dévi, I believe. And then how many more have you opened today?
So my first restaurant was a restaurant called Amma, where it was 24 seats, and we gave the world the first degustation menu, French style, with full pageantry, 11 courses, 9 courses, and 7 courses, $145, $125, and $99. In 2002. So think, there was a chef who was charging that much money and filling the seats every night. Martha Stewart would be found climbing snow puddles to get into Amma. Shashi Tharoor would eat there 3 times a week. So I'd pay that much, because they were all shocked that Indian food, ghar ka khana, could be sexy, chic, light. Koi badbu nahi aati thi. When you eat Indian food, your skin smells, your hair smells, you have badhasmi, you have to take Pepto-Bismol, Melanta, and all kinds of things. None of that. Because we were making, I would put only 3 curries on the menu, and those 3 sauces were made that morning. Not put in the freezer, lal sauce, yellow sauce, white sauce, none of that crap that 99.99% restaurants do even today. We made 3 curries, we made them from scratch every day. They were light. There was no bhuna piyaz being used. So my first restaurant was Amma.
And then how many more?
Then Dévi, then I opened a restaurant called, I was opening a restaurant called American Masala in San Francisco. You'll read about it tomorrow. My rent was $1.2 million a month. And we were going to be 600 seats, the most iconic restaurant America would have had.
Wow.
After 18 months of us paying that rent, after putting $5.5 million in design, the city of San Francisco, Mayor Lee, bless his soul, he's passed away, and the landlord, new Nima building, was still struggling that, we wanted a cobbler and a dry cleaner and a nail salon rather than a big restaurant. And they were charging us for 18 months $1 million rent. So the mayor, who was my partner Paresh Gilani, was the biggest donor and the youngest Indian billionaire, was the biggest donor to the Democratic Party. So Mayor Lee got a message that you're hurting Paresh by doing all this rubbish with the landlord. he sent an email out to 38 people, copied in the open, that fix this today. So Paresh called me and he said, Suvir, at this point, we have $1 million rent and 5.4 million invested. If anybody wants to attack the Democrats, we are gone. So what do? I think we should just walk out. We walked out after 18 months. And the next thing, Koi had opened in markets, 10th and Market. The entire area crashed. It's where homelessness is, where San Francisco is failing, where San Francisco is disgusting. Everybody shuttered their doors. The planet told Paresh and I, leave. So we had put all that money, we got it back. We sued the city and the landlord, we got it back. America, you can sue everybody. And so that was a restaurant that crushed me. I had an abortion of my baby. I call my restaurants and books my babies. Then I went to open Tapestry. And Tapestry was a labor of love. We cooked 16 recipes every day from 16 parts of the world.
In New York.
In New York. And it was in Greenwich Village. I lived 2 blocks away from my restaurant. It was a labor of love. It was when we closed, the International Herald Tribune, the journalist, she sent me the review that was coming out on Sunday. We closed on Tuesday. The Times gave me the 3-star review they were giving us on that Wednesday. It was a bold decision to do that restaurant. The head of the hedge fund, Blackstone. He was my neighbor at my home. And he was at my table 11 to 12 times a week. He had his lunch and dinner there. And when he saw that we were closing, he said, can I give you money to keep it open? We cook daring food from all over, authentic food from 16 countries every day. That shuttered within 7 months of me opening it. I had to leave India because I got unwell. And then after that in India, now I have in Amritsar 3 restaurants, in Pune 5 restaurants, in Bombay 2 restaurants, and in many other cities. I'm the culinary director for 1-8 Commune, which is Virat Kohli's restaurant empire. And I'm the culinary director for Numa, which is Karan Johar's restaurant empire. And also for Pin Code. So I have over restaurants in 3 continents and over a few restaurants.
Amazing.
But I'm teaching, I'm not cooking there, I'm teaching Indians to not be cooking Jenny Pizza, Chiji Pav Bhaji, and sushi, dal, crap like that. I'm telling them, go look at our own cuisine, invest in our old ways, connect our old food to tomorrow, make it sustainable, make it healthy, cook with the right facts. I'm teaching them what I've learned over 22 years of being the only chef on the nutrition board of Harvard Medical School, Brigham and Women's Hospital. I teach physicians how to cook and eat and drink. So that tutelage I bring to Indian chefs. I'm hoping one of my kids will become the next butter chicken inventor, which won't be giving people heart attacks, but will make them smile happily and be proud Indians.
That's quite
Just time for maybe one more question. Yes.
One, it's not a question, it's a request. Just sing 2 lines of your
That's it. When I question it, then we'll do this.
So you don't forget that, yeah.
I speak for everyone, we're incredibly impressed by what you've achieved.
I've not achieved anything. India has given me the strength. I haven't achieved anything.
Well,
Believe me, the one thing I never think of is achievement. I failed in 6th grade in school. Ruchi, my friend sitting there, was a genius. I struggled all my life to be fitting into boxes. I was so emotionally damaged that studies weren't important to me. I was reading the books, perhaps better than her, but not wasting my time perfecting them on paper. When I went to give exams, I didn't care a damn about the grades. If they failed me, they'll fail me. So I know more about many things in life than many people. I don't chase achievement. I chase personal happiness. I chase the others' happiness more than my own. And I want to die having protected the others that we are othering in India and abroad. So achievements I've not done any. I'm an average human being. You know, when we put people in pedestals of great achievers, those mini strokes happen. They are stressed. We are all broken people, all of us. But we come out and we look like $1 million, we pretend everything is normal, we're not. The day we connect, when we jodo ourselves, when we become the glue with each other's misery and suffering and despair, is the day we all heal one another. And I try and do that at least with my own friends and family. And I have few friends, but we are very good to one another. So we don't achieve. We give each other all of our love. And as broken as we are, we accept one another. So I think I have much to achieve, but I don't want to achieve because I'm happy being a mediocre person.
I would not say that any of us would completely subscribe to that because I would really say that you're incredibly inspiring. And in the position, one thing that really hurts me here is that you're painting. And
I want to die. I told my aunt today, I said, if I go tomorrow, I'll be so happy that I don't have to live with pain. But
it's painful in here.
no, death is not just, see, कबीर ने क्या कहा, मेरी मटकी फूट गई, भला हुआ, मुझे पानी भरन से छूट मिली. So don't look at death as being a dark thing. All my life I've romanced. I'm a student of Kabir, so for me death is my best friend. Death is my lover. Death is my connection to the one, the divine. And जो दिल यहाँ ना मिल सके, मिलेंगे उस जहान में, खिलेंगे हसरतों के फूल, जाके आसमान में. So I look at it like that in death I will get new opportunities. I'll get freedom from the pain and I'll be one with myself and the Creator.
So we should end on a good note. Death में नहीं, आप एक प्यारा सा गाना गाइए, वो उनका ख्वाहिश था, हम लोग 2 more minutes, so we'll end it with beautiful songs. Is that okay?
Yes.
मेरो अल्लाह मेहरबान कोई बिगाड़ सकत नहीं तेरो मान लीजिए तू था आना मेरो अल्लाह पीर पैगंबर धावे अली नबी को रुसवो पावे हसन हुसैन प्यारे जिनके मान लीजिए तू था So this is Pandit Jasraj's favorite composition of his own that he wrote and composed when he was a young kid in the Gharana where the Mughal rulers were supporting him. So that Panditji wrote for that. But one of my guru, Marina Ahmed, Panditji's favorite student, and he lived in her home. What she taught me was a beautiful line that I should close with. Ye tere mandir, ye tere masjid. These temples of yours, these mosques and temples. Ye tere mandir, ye tere masjid, ye bhut parasti, this idol worship. Ye sajda gahi, the genuflecting in the mosque. Ye sajda gahi, ye bhut parasti. Agar inhi mein tere khuda ka ghar hai, to inme mera khuda nahi hai. That if these can house your God, then my God cannot be housed in something so small and man-made. So remember this and stop othering yourselves and others. Because the Creator is much bigger than our imagination. We have no idea who they are.
Ladies and gentlemen, see you first.
I got to know a little bit about you from Masala Farm, your book, and which was gifted to me by Sangeeta, my sister-in-law. But I want to say I knew a bit about you from that book, but today what I've heard, you're a modern day Renaissance man. You're a philosopher, you're a poet, you're an artist. I'm a graphic designer who loves cooking.
I went to school for graphic design.
But this was an amazing, amazing session.
We have Kiran to thank for it. She brought me. Kiran,
Yes.
thank you. If I done anything right, she gets credit.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.
You know, this gentleman, he has a son, Vivan, who's autistic, which means we've shunned him already. His birth and his revelation as being autistic, society has already billed him as being many things he's not. He read me a poem from his son today. And that poem tells you that my smile is noise to you, that I have no place in this world. That kid has written this. He has told us what we think of him. Padhiye, please. So invest in him. I've told him I want to do a movie. I want to make a movie, I don't know why. So this is the movie I want to do. Because when I was brain dead almost, a joke to people, I had friends who would come around me in India, in New York, everywhere I went, who would say, oh, isko to kuch samajh nahi aa raha, chalo chalo khana khate, ye karte. Now I tell them what they said, and they're in shock that I could hear. So I always tell them, don't assume you know what those people that you think have maladies or difference from us understand and grasp. His son is that perfectly son.
So I'll just give you a brief background. Vivan is 15 years old. He is autistic. He's non-verbal, so he has no skills.
But his physics and math skills are very high. No?
Very good. He's cognitively very, very sharp. But of course, he has no means to communicate. Till he was 9 years old, we actually thought that he doesn't understand anything. And one day, magically started spelling things and writing poems. And we were like, is this the same child? So he was always listening. He was always comprehending the world in various ways. And so this is a poem he wrote just a couple of weeks ago. So I'll just read it out for you. So this is what he wrote. Place on the planet lost for me. I find nowhere where to be. I am a voice, you hear my noise. I am a summer sound, the wind may blow strong and loud. I have heard my dreams shout. I am always going on, round and round.
So I didn't speak till the age of 5, and my mother said, now you don't shut up. So people thought I was Gunga Behra, because I didn't speak till I was 5. But I was also going to be aborted. So I often begin by telling people this. My mother was scolded by my dadi for having a third child. They were modern Indian, bahu, saas and bahu. And I was an accident. So my mother was going to abort me. Something came up in her busy day, she didn't. So then they said, chalo, de. So I was, by birth is an accident. I was an abortion, but somehow didn't happen. And against the death and abortion, look at me, my life is doomed from birth. But look how amazing it is when you accept who you are. And my parents didn't hide it from me. And I love people in America and New York, people say, you knew you were going to be aborted. I said, what's the big deal? I survived. They kept me. That's the story. Not that I was going to be aborted. So we just have to think smartly.
You were meant to be.
That I don't know, but I am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.